Hello everyone, welcome back. So this is the AWS training track 2A. This is going to be a lab track for S3. So let's get started. So this is the S3 labs. Let's go ahead and check what we're going to cover in this. So we're going to cover the upload security and encryption of the S3 buckets or whatever you're going to upload. You're going to check the how we're going to upload it, what is the security and the encryption that we can do for those files. We're going to see version control. We're going to see lifecycle management, and we'll get a overview of Glacier. We are going to host a website. So this is going to be a static website on S3. Then we are going to share the S3 across multiple accounts. So we're going to see how we can do that. And then we're going to look at cross-region replication. And finally, we're going to see transfer acceleration and CloudFront. So we'll be covering all these in detail in the practical sessions. So let's start with the first one. So the first one is going to be a simple upload. We're going to do an upload. Basically, we are going to create a bucket first. Then we're going to upload the file to that bucket. We're going to check the encryption options that we get. And we're going to see the public and private access on the files and the bucket. So we're going to see that. So let's get right into it. Let's go to the console. Now I'm going to go to S3. I'm going to click on S3. It will take me to the S3 console. So you'll see that I've not created any buckets here. So what we're going to do is simply click on create bucket. I can click here or there. Now the bucket name is going to be unique. So like we discussed, the namespace is unique because the URL will be associated to that. So this has to be a unique thing. So I'm going to set it as say AWS training and because TechMazart, and I'm going to put the year as 2020, and I'm hoping that nobody has taken it. And I'm going to leave this as block all public permissions. We'll see how this affects our bucket access. So I'm going to leave it at that. Advanced settings, I'm not going to check anything here. This will be checked out in the bucket versioning and stuff. So we're going to leave everything else as it is, and I'm going to try and create this. So now this particular bucket is now created. Now let's get right into it and go into our bucket here. I'm in my bucket. So you'll see that this bucket is particularly having nothing inside. It is an empty bucket. We just created it. There are no files in that. So what I'm going to do is now simply going ahead and going to go into my resource folder. Now I have a reference text here created. I'm just putting it as a reference doc, nothing else, nothing fancy inside that. I'm going to take this and this particular instance type PNG. Basically, it's a list of instance types that we had checked out for EC2. So it's a screenshot of that. So I'm going to take that here, right here, and I'm going to drag and put this into that particular. I can actually go ahead, click on upload and do this, but I'm going to drag it in, and this is basically in effect the same thing. So I've done that. Now I can simply click on upload to upload these files onto the S3 bucket. But instead of doing that, I just want to show you the options that you get while you're uploading a file. So click on next. Then you'll see that the users that have access to it. So at this point of time, I only have one user, that is the owner of this S3 bucket. So I'm the owner of this S3 bucket. I mean, it's grayed out here, but since I'm the user, I'm going to have this access over here. Now, if you scroll down, now you'll see that the block public access settings turned on for this bucket prevent granting public access. What this means is that because the bucket itself is private, I cannot put a public object within a private bucket, which is correct, right? Because you cannot bypass a bucket and go directly to an object. So that's why you cannot set public permissions here. So if I had unchecked that particular box where it is blocking all public access, I could have made these objects public automatically. Now also I can actually give access to another AWS account to this S3 bucket or the objects inside this bucket. Now I could have done that, but because I don't have any another account right now, I am not showing you that here. And we will be covering this later, because we are going to see a cross region when another account, so not the cross region, sorry, to another account, how we can access that. We'll get to that, but that would be another session. So let's go ahead with this. So I'm going to click on next now. Now, you remember that AWS tiering that we had talked about. So this is the tiered storage that we were talking about in S3. So you have the standard, you have the intelligent tiering, you have the standard IA or infrequent access, you have one zone IA or one zone infrequent access, Glacier deep drive. So you have all these options right here. I am not going to select anything right now. Again, now I can put in metadata. You can actually add details over here. You can add tags if you want. I am not going to do any of those things. I'm going to simply click on next. Now this will basically reviewing what all you have selected. I've not added any tags. I've not added any encryption. So I'm going to leave everything as is. I'm going to simply upload this. So you'll see that it has been completed and I have both my files here. So this is immediate, the files will be visible immediately here because now you just put it. So this is immediately seen and you can check it everywhere and it will be the same. So let's go ahead and check if I can have access to it. So I can just simply click here and you'll see that this pops up here. Or you can just click on this particular file and it will take you inside or show you what file it is. So to access this, actually I have to just click on the object URL and it should give you access. Now if I go to that, you'll see that it is giving me an access denied message. So what does this mean? This is basically because we have set this particular object within a private bucket and the object is also private. So what is the solution for this? So I'm going to close this here. I'm going to go back here and let me see if I can make it public. So there is a button which should have been here, which is make public, but this is grayed out. Now let's see if I can go into the bucket and directly check if I can make that public. So I'm going to select both of these. I'm going to go to actions. Let's see if I can make it public using this. Again, it is grayed out. The reason is that, basically the bucket itself is private. So I cannot make the objects public inside that. So this is the exact same thing when we were uploading, it was showing us. So what we're going to do is now I'm going to make this bucket basically a public bucket. So I'm going to go into properties. Permissions. I'm going to into permissions. And in the permissions, you'll see that there's block public access. Now here, I see that block all public access is on. I'm going to simply click on edit. I'm going to uncheck this. Once I uncheck this, I have to save this. So it will tell me that, obviously this is going to make it public and stuff. I'm simply going to type in confirm. I've typed it in. I'm clicking on confirm. So the public access settings have been updated here. Now if I go back to the bucket itself, and now if I select both the files and I go here and try to make it public, yes, that option is now available for me. I'm going to click on make public and click on, once I do that, it will give you this pop-up which is saying that everyone will have access to one or all the following: read this object, read and write permission. So I'm going to make it public anyways. So I clicked on that. Now again, if I go to this particular any of these files, so I'm going to click on this. Let me check if I can access this. I can access this. So you will see this file here. I'm going to close that. I'm going to go to the other file here. Let's see if I can access that as well. So you will see that now both of these are now accessible. So this is what we have, as basically private and public access on this bucket as well as the files. So we have covered that. Now let's move on to see what the encryption part of it is. Now if you go to properties within the bucket, if you go to properties, so you will see a default encryption, automatically encrypt objects when stored in S3. So now this one is that one is actually presently not set. So what you have is an option, basically a server-side encryption and a client-side encryption. What it means is the server-side encryption can be managed in three different ways. There is one in which there is an S3 managed keys or SSE S3. There is an SSE KMS also available, in which the keys are managed by the AWS KMS managed keys. So and the final thing is where the customer will provide the key to the key to AWS, and that is also possible. And if you are talking about the client side encryption, it is basically the client will encrypt the data and then push it to the S3 bucket. So these are the encryption options that you get over here. So we are not going to select all that. It is something that if you have a preference, you can go ahead and check that out. So I mean, obviously this is I mean, you will see the options here. You can go ahead and select this. So it will get encrypted as you put the objects in the bucket or existing uh, basically it will not affect the existing files in there. It will only affect the files that are going to be put in. All right, so I'm going to cancel this. So this is about it on the upload side of it. So we have discussed, let's go back to that and let's see how that goes. So we just completed the basic upload security and encryption part of it. So we did create a bucket. We saw the namespace is unique and we had to put a unique name to that. We created a bucket, then we uploaded two files to it. We saw the public and private access on those files. We checked out the encryption options that we have. So we have completed this section. We are moving on to the next section. So let's see that we are going to check out the version control in this session. So let's see what this is. So first what we're going to do is basically enable version control on the file that we have uploaded. And then we're going to update the file. And then we're going to do a deletion and see there is a marker set on that. We'll see that in the session. So this is what we are going to do now. Let's get right into it. Okay, so we are back in the S3 console here. So this is the bucket that we just created. I'm going to click on this particular bucket. And within this bucket, what I'm going to do is I'm simply going into properties. And if you see that versioning is disabled presently, I'm going to click that. I'm going to enable versioning on this and I'm going to save this. So if you go here now, you'll see that there's a versions tab that has come up over here. And if this is hide and show, so basically now if I click on show, this will take you and it will show you that okay, for the reference file this is the latest version, and instance type.png, this is the latest version. Now this is because there is only one version of this particular file and I'm not made any changes on that. So let's go ahead and make a change and let's see how that changes things here. I'm going to go back to hiding it. I'm going back to my folder, I mean reference folder. So let me go to my resources folder here. I'm going to get into the reference text. So I'm going to name, I'm going to add a few things here. I'm going to put it as version 2 because I just made a change on this. I'm going to save this. What I'm going to do is now I'm going to pull this here. Instead of pulling, I'll just show you how I can upload this from here. I'm going to add files. Okay, I have this here. I'm going to upload this file. I got right into it. I have uploaded this file. I'm going to upload it. I'm not going to select any other thing. I'm going to simply click on upload. Now there are two things that you need to notice here. Now if I go and click here show, you'll see that now this has been changed and this is the latest version and there is another version which we uploaded some time back. So now let's see that if I can access this particular file here. So if I open this file, basically if I click on this and open this object URL, you'll see that again I am getting an access denied, but I had just provided access to this particular file, right? Yeah, but the thing is, now that you have uploaded a newer version, you'll have to give it permissions as well. So this is a thing that you have to notice. So we will see how to remediate that in the later part of the sessions. So now what we have to do is basically I'm going to make this public as well. I'm going to click on make this public. I'm going to make this public again. And now if I click on this, I should be taken to that. So you see that it's a reference doc version 2. And now that modification has been a modification has come up, you see that the versions also show the modification here. So there is this particular version which is the latest version, and this is the older version. So if you want to access the older version, you can click on that. You can still go to that older version if you want. See, if this is the older version, this is the newer version. So you have both versions there. But in the console without the versioning, if you go ahead and if somebody comes and accesses this, they can actually access the newest version of this. So that is what you see here. Now the next part of it that we are gonna do is basically I'm going to delete this file. So let's see what happens when you go ahead and delete this. So I'm going to click on actions. I am going to delete this. So if you see the option delete here, I'm going to click on that. Right, so it gives you all affected objects will be deleted, blah blah blah. I'm going to click here delete. So you see that the object is gone. Now this is basically something that versioning helps you with. So what happens here is that that particular object is deleted. So the latest version is a deleted version. So if you click on versions here, you will see that you have the versions right here, and you see the older version. And if you click on this particular version, and if I am trying to access this, you will still be able to access this from the versions. That is because what deletion of this file when versioning is turned on is basically that there is a delete marker which is placed on top of it. So you can think about this like your data. You have the first version, you have the second version. So it's like a stack of paper, and on top of it you have kept a paperweight. So until unless this paperweight is not lifted, or the delete marker in this case is not lifted, you will not be able to see the files under it. And obviously it goes in the similar fashion that the latest version is the one that you will be able to. So if this anybody is coming and accessing and without the version, they will not be able to see the delete marker here, because delete marker is only there in the versions. So I remove the delete marker. So let's go back here in the versions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this delete marker. I can do that. So I can go here, I can delete this delete marker. So I'm going to delete that here. Now let's go back to the console. I mean in the bucket, you'll see that the file is back right here. So what this has done is basically it has removed that paperweight delete marker. Now you're able to see the latest version of it. Now if, to go one more step further, I can even go ahead and do this. I'm going back here. I'm going to simply delete the latest version. I'm going to delete the latest version. Instead of deleting the whole thing, I want to revert back to a previous version. So I can simply go here. I can delete this version from here. So you see that I've deleted this. I've deleted the latest version. I'm going back into the bucket directly. Now if I go click on this particular reference file, and I'm going to go to that object URL. I've clicked on that. If you see that this is the older version. So what I've done is basically I've done two things. First, I deleted the file directly from this. So you saw that there was a delete marker that was created. So I couldn't see that file here anymore, but when I clicked on the versions part, it was there. There was a delete marker on that. Then I deleted the delete marker, which made it available back onto my bucket. Then what I did is I went back to the versions and I deleted the file that I had uploaded after this. So basically where in which it said instead of reference doc, where it said reference doc dash version 2. So what I've done is basically I've done a deletion. There is an updation part of it, and something that you have to be careful is that if you're not going to give a bucket policy over here, it will be that every time you're uploading a particular object, you'll have to give it public permissions for it to be public. Otherwise, if you have just set a object as public, but if you give a newer version to it, you will have to make that public again. So this, bear in mind this. So these are the things that we needed to cover in under versioning. So we've done that. Now let's move to the next part of the S3 demo. So in the next part of the demo is basically for lifecycle management and Glacier. So it's an overview of Glacier. So what we're going to cover here is basically setting up lifecycle management rules, and we are going to see a overview for the Glacier. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's get right into it. So I'm back into the AWS S3 bucket that we created. Now here, if you go for basically you have properties, permissions, you have a lot of things here. So I'm going to go under management. So now management, you have basically a replication, which we are going to be doing later on. Now we are going to do lifecycle management first. So under lifecycle, this is already selected. I'm going to add a lifecycle rule. Now I can name this anything that I feel like. So I can set it as, okay, lifecycle rule. Okay, because I'm just being generic about it. So I'm going to leave it as LC rule. Now limit the scope to specific prefixes or tags. What this means is basically I can actually set it for example, if this is a log folder that I am uploading here, or log files that I'm putting here. So I can tell it, okay, it's for, say, the log file name that I want to have a particular rule is, I'd say, log for February of 2020. If that is what it is going to be, so if the log name starts with like log dash 02 20, basically the year, and then the date which it is there. So if that is the case, I can just tag it as, say, if the tags are there for, say, log dash 0220, then take this, and that's the only thing that you have to bother about. So I can add the prefix tag here. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply this for the entire bucket. So any objects that are under this bucket, they will have this rule applied to them. I'll click on next now. Now here is what we have to do. So what happens with the lifecycle management is that a particular file within basically a bucket here, because I've set it for the entire bucket, you will have to have a storage transition. What this means is the tiers. So you have the standard tier, you have the infrequent access tier, you have the one zone infrequent access here, Glacier layer. So all those layers are here. I can actually put these files into the different tiers according to the time and usage. So you can do this for the current version as well as the previous version. So because if you have the versioning set, you can do this for both the current as well as the previous version. So I'm going to set the first transition here. Now I'm going to select this to be standard infrequent access. So the by default it is set at 30. You cannot go lower than that because that's a default. So what it means is that it would be 30 days in the standard tier, and after 30 days it will transition. So any file that I have, the current version of that file, after 30, current version of the latest version, what I mean, that latest version, once it's uploaded, it will take after 30 days it will be moved to the standard infrequent. Okay, and now if I add another transition, I can actually set this as, say, I'm going to go lower here. So it's going to be one zone I after that. So basically it's like 30 days in that, another 30 days in another 30 days in the standard infrequent access. It would be pushed to one zone infrequent access. So I've done these two transitions. You can go forward and say other things. Now transition to Glacier after, you will obviously see that there is going to be a problem here. There is going to be a pricing involved. I can acknowledge that and then go ahead with it. I am not going to set that here because I don't want that cost to be incurred. And I've also not created a vault. We'll get to that. Similarly, I'm going to add these two rules for the previous versions as well. So I'm going to set it as infrequent access. I'm not going to change any details over there. I'm going to leave it as is, and I'm going to put the same thing for after 60 days as well. Now I'll click on next. So after clicking on next, you will see that you can set an expiration for this files as well. Now this is something very important to understand. See, sometimes you don't want these files over a long period of time. So sometimes it's like you might require it for an year and a half, but not more than that. So why would you want to pay for storage of these files, right? So this is the way you can set an expiry for a particular file or number of files that you're using. So this is how you do that. So I can do this again for the current version as well as the previous version, and you will see that by default after 425 days, these can, after becoming a previous version obviously. So once this is the current version also, after 425 days, this from the object creation, it will expire. So whichever storage it is there in, from there it will be pushed to an expiry, or it will be deleted basically. And you can also do this for the previous version. So once it is declared a previous version, and then it is after 425 days of that as well, it will be pushed into removal, right? So you can actually set these according to what you wish to do with it. You can do that. Now you cannot enable cleanup expired objects delete markers if you enable expiration, obviously, because you have the version set up and then you are going to do cleanup expired object delete markers. That doesn't make any sense. So that is why you don't have the option right here. Now you can also clean up multi-part uploads. Now multi-part uploads is a thing that you should know actually. So if you're going to upload huge files, like say it's a 5 TB file, now the efficiency of uploading a 5 TB file will be much more increased if it's a multi-part. So you can actually make parts of these files and basically upload those different files. So it makes the uploads much faster. So there, the multi-part uploads, you can actually go ahead and delete those multi-part uploads that you have done. So basically, once you have the complete file, you can go ahead and delete those multi-part uploads. So you can set the days for that as well. Now, once you click next, you can review everything, and again acknowledge what all you have done here, and then you can go ahead and click save. I'm not going to do that because this is just a demo that I wanted to show you about the lifecycle rule. So I'm not going to set this here. I'm going to close this here, and now let's go back to the basic AWS console. I'm going back to the main page here, and here I'll show you where Glacier comes up. So if you will see that under storage, we discussed under S3 Glacier also. So it is as a separate service put up here. I'm going to click on S3 Glacier, and here if you see, you'll have to create an S3 Glacier vault. So I can go ahead and click here. You can give it a vault name, whatever you want to give it. I can set the see, now the region is set to vault location that you have selected. So that has been put here, and the vault name you can put here. Then you can go ahead. Okay, let me put a name and go click next. Okay, so now you can again do these things like, you can set up notifications here. You can actually create or you can join it to an existing SNS topic. Now, SNS topic is basically, let's put it in very mild terms here. SNS topic is basically a notification that would be sent to you as an SMS, email, any of those things. So it's basically, if you are having some job which puts things into the Glacier, here it will be actually putting a notification. So SNS is not basically used just for Glacier, it is used for as a notification service. But in this, you can create a notification right here. Then I'm not going to create anything, so it will just skip the event notification details. So if there was an event that I had to put there, I could have put there and set that in the event notification details. I did not do that. I can simply click on submit, and that will create a Glacier here. Now, if you why I'm not creating this is basically there is no way of demoing this thing, and also Glacier incurs costs if you're not using it, and it has a commitment for 90 days or 180 days. So I'm not going to do that. This was just an overview of Glacier, just so that you have an idea of what it is. So that's about it in this session. Let's move on to the next one. I'm going to cancel this before that. So let's get back to the next topic that we're going to cover under. So the next thing that we're going to cover under the S3 demo session is we're going to create a static website. We're going to host it on S3, and basically I have a domain name. We will be linking that, and we'll see all that here. So what we are going to do here is first we are going to create a bucket for hosting a website. We'll see what are the rules that we need to follow to create a bucket for this website. We're going to do that. Then we are going to upload the HTML documents that we require. We're going to do that. We're going to create that and then upload those files. So that's pretty obvious. So we're going to do that. Then we're going to check the AWS URL. So what we are going to do, what this means by the AWS URL is we're going to click on that particular static website that we have created. That's the endpoint. And we are going to see if that works. And finally, we're going to use the domain, external domain that is used for this demo. So let's go ahead and get right. So I'm back in the S3 management console. Now what I'm going to do is I don't need this one. So I'm going to first, so if you're going to click on delete here for this particular bucket, because I don't need this bucket, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to delete this. So if you're going to delete this, first you have to empty the bucket. So I'm going to click on empty bucket here, and what I need to do is basically type in the name of this bucket. So I'm going to empty this, I'm going to exit this, and then I'm going to delete this again. So now it will allow you to delete it. So I'm going to delete this bucket. We're not going to use that. So now I'm going to create a new bucket. Now the rule for this is that if you're going to create a bucket for your website basically, so this should be, the bucket name should be the domain name that you are going to give it. So I'm going to, my domain name is www.techmozart.com. So I can't use TechMozart because techmozart.com is right now where my website is live. So I'm going to, I have another domain which is techmozart.in. I'm going to use that. Now what I'm going to do is I want this to be accessed publicly. So I'm going to leave this as public access. I'm going to acknowledge that so here right at the start, I'm giving it full public access. The bucket has full public access. I'm going to create this bucket. So you'll see that there's a www.techmozart.in that has been created here. Now I'm going to click on this bucket. This bucket will open up. Right. So this bucket is empty. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply upload the files that I have already created. I'll show you the files. So this is the index.html that I've created for this. So let me show you what the contents of that is. So it's basically an HTML file wherein which you have the basically the source image. There would be an image and there would be a header which is instance type. I'm just simply going to upload this and the pic. So this is the code, this is the file that I want to show. So I'm going to upload these two. So let's go ahead and do that. Going back into the bucket, I'm going to click on upload. I'm going to add files here, and in that I'm going to simply select the files that I need. This one and this one is what I'm looking at. I'm uploading these files, and I'm simply going to click on upload. I'm not going to change anything else here. So I have both these files here. What I'm going to do is again going to select this, and I'm going to set all of them public. I'm setting this as public. Right, so I've set this as public. Now there are two more things that we need to do here. First, in the properties, I'm going to make this a static website. So you'll see that there is an option where you can set it as a static website hosting. So I'm going to set this up here, and I'm simply going to copy this URL as well. So let me do that. I've copied that, and this is going to point to index.html. Right, so that is the file that I have uploaded. I'm going to put this bucket, this is the bucket hosting that I've selected. Now you have to go under permission. So before doing that, I'm going to go into this new page. I'm going to paste in that so that we can just click on enter and search it, check it up. So let's see if that works right away. So it does work. So if you want, so if there are some versions that you need to change here, you will have to set a bucket permission over here. So we'll go into bucket policies here under permission. So this is going to be the bucket policy that I'm going to set. So I have this right here. I'll share this in the link below. I mean, basically the description part below. So I'm going to share that here. So I have this right here. I'm going to copy this policy. So I'm going to copy this. So obviously this part, the ARN part will be your ARN. So I'm going to change that here. So when you are doing this, you can change this to the ARN of your bucket. So in this case, mine is this particular bucket. I'm going to simply click on next. So what this does is any of the updates that you're going to put from here on. So this is what we saw earlier, right? When we were changing, the changes were not getting in effect because we did not allow it to do this. So now this is going to do that. It's going to give a public read object allow basically. So you can set it up for write as well. So now this is just for the read part. I've done that. Now let me go to the properties. So now this is done. So you have your website hosted here. So this is just the first part of it. Now what we need to do is basically go ahead and set this up on the Route 53. Now we will get into details of what Route 53 is, but right now you just have to know that basically it's a DNS hosting on AWS. So now I'm going to click on Route 53. So you'll see that I have not created anything else, so it will come up right here like this. So I have to simply click on get started now. So this is what is going to come up. Now I have to click on create a hosted zone. Now what you need to do is basically I'm going to create a hosted zone here. So click on hosted zone and my domain name is basically techmozad.in. So this is my domain name. I'm going to create this. So this is what has gotten created. Now the next step of this is basically I need to create another record within this hosted zone. So this would be a www record that I'm going to create. I'm going to click on alias and I'm going to enter the target here. So you can directly select the S3 website here. So you see that the S3 website endpoint, because you selected the hosting there, this is going to point to that. I'm going to select this alias target as that S3 endpoint. I've selected that. I'm going to simply click on create. So this is now created as the endpoint. Now what you need to do is basically click here. You need to copy these values. So these are the DNS values that for this particular hosting that I have done here. So this is the DNS record that I need to update on the domain manager of where I bought my domain from. So in this case, I've got it from GoDaddy. So I'm going to go there, and here these are the details that are there. I'm going to simply click on manage DNS here. It's taking some time to load up. Let's wait for it to load up. So it has been loaded up now. So you'll see the name servers right here. So in this, the name servers, I'm going to change it to the ones that we have, put up in the hosted zone. So I'm going to put this here. I'm going to replace this with the new ones. Please remove the dot at the end, because when you're copying it from here, there would be a dot at the end. That is not something that you want. I'm going to paste all of them here. So I've done that. I'm going to click on save. So this is all you need to do here, and this will take some time to propagate. So this might now if you're going to techmozart.in, it might take some time to propagate it, and you will sometimes get a landing zone or a parking site. So let's see if this works immediately. I greatly doubt that this is going to work. So techmozart. So let's see if that works. Right. So it is giving an internal error at this point of time. So this will take some time for it to propagate. So let's get back to the remaining part of our S3 demo. And in some time, we'll come back and check if this is actually up. So let's go ahead to the next part of it. So the next part is where we are going to access S3 buckets across multiple accounts. So for this, what we're going to do is first we're going to have an overview of what is AWS organizations, and then we're going to create an organization and make one of the accounts a part of this organization. First, we'll see an overview of it in the next slide. Then obviously, like I mentioned, we're going to set up an AWS organization with 2 accounts. So I have 2 accounts. I'm going to set it up to access this. Now then we are going to create a role on the master account for the other account. So what that means is basically you're going to give a role to this new the other account that you're going to add. So basically take it in this way. So I have this master account, and then there is kind of a slave account, you can call it, or there is another account there. So if there is a company that is already there and it is becoming a parent company to another company, so what happens is that they also have an AWS account, so it can simply add that as another account into the same organization. So that is exactly what it is. And here it would we are going to create a role on the master account for the account that has been now added. So that is what we're going to do in that point. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create a user which is going to be in the new account that has been added to the organization. And once that user gets added, that user will be going to switch. User is going to actually have some rights, like admin rights on that. So that person actually can switch accounts, and that we're gonna switch account for that particular user, which is in the new account that has been added to the organization. And basically that person will be able to access the S3 bucket in the primary account. So this is what we're going to do. So obviously that is what we're going to do here. So let's get because you will have a better idea in the lab session. Instead of me telling you here, you will have a better idea when you're doing the practicals. But before doing that, let's have an overview about what is AWS organization. Now, when you create an AWS organization, so say that I own a company. And I have created an AWS account for that. So I am the root account on this. So I will be the main master account here. And what I do is I buy multiple companies. So I can all these companies can have like their own accounts. So I can create an OU for these basically these accounts that the other companies that I've bought have. So I can have the OUs, or I can simply use their AWS accounts as a sub account on this. Or these OUs can have AWS accounts, or these OUs can have other OUs under it. So say for example, I got another company. So say I'm TechMozart and I buy something like there is a division, or say I create a division under me, which is TechMozart US. So that TechMozart US might have a dev team, they might have a prod team. So if that I want to create another OU for them, I can go ahead and do that. So I can create a TechMozart US prod. So that would be another OU here. And similarly, I can have say TechMozart Germany, and I can create an account directly for that, or else I can keep 2 accounts. So right now what we're going to do, and obviously the OU can have another AWS account under it as well. So what I'm going to do in this demo is basically I'm going to create two AWS accounts into the main this thing, the organization. The thing that you need to know about organization is that why do you need to have an organization is because you will have a combined account there, so you will have advantages like billing at the same place, everything. You can have a detailed understanding of where the expenses are going. You can apply policies. Now the policies that you apply can go on to the OU that you have set up, so it can be set to the OU under the OU, that also you can set up. So what happens is that if you're going to apply it on the top OU or the top account, whatever comes under it, it will trickle down to the other services that are under it. So similarly, if you're going to directly set it under the AWS account front, it will obviously be affecting that particular account and it won't affect the OU. And if you create something else on the OU, it will not reflect that. So this is what you need to know about AWS organizations. Like I said, you will have a better idea about this as and when we go do our practicals. So let's get right into the practical session. So yeah, so we are back into this particular thing. So before going ahead and creating an organization, let me go ahead and check if this is completed. This is done. It will take some time. Oh yeah, it is up. So you will see that this is up now. So what we have done now is actually we have created a static website and we have actually hosted it on this particular domain. So this is the techmozart.in page right now. By the time you will be probably seeing this, I might have already deleted it. So we'll look into this. So this is what we did with the website hosting. So this is pretty straightforward. Now let's move on to the next part where we are going to create an AWS organization. So we're going to click on the services right here and let me check if I can find organizations. Yes, there it is. I'm going to click on the AWS organizations there under management and governance. So you'll see something like this when you're going to open this for the first time. So I'm going to click on create organization. So this is going to create an organization with this particular account as the master account. I'm going to click on create. So you'll see that this is the default account I have. Actually, you'll see this. There will be an email here and there will be an account ID here. I've actually graded out because I don't want to give my personal information in this. So yes, so you will see those things here. I'm going to add an account here. I'm going to invite an account, basically invite another account that I have. So this is basically for different. So if there is an organization and there are two accounts here, basically I want to add this into this organization. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in the other account. So I can actually send a note if I want. I am not going to do that. So I have typed in a detail here. You will not be able to see it because I've graded out. I'm going to invite. So you cannot add accounts to your organization while it is initializing. So you'll have to wait a little bit more because this is just created this particular organization. So it's just under the initializing phase. So let me go back to organizations. Let's wait and check it out. It will take some time for it to get over with. So let me wait for this. I'm going to try adding this again. I added this. I'm going to just copy this in case can't do this now. So okay, so this is taking some time. So let me pause here and then get back where we will check this out, how to add this particular one. So let me just pause this. So now I was able to go ahead and invite the other account. So it will come up something like this. So you'll see that the status is open here and what it basically does, it basically sends the email to that particular account holder's email ID. So I'm going to check my account. I'm not going to show you where I'm going to check this, but I'm going to go into that user's account and I'm going to actually accept that particular invite. So let me quickly log into my account and check it out. So I'm going to pause this and I'm going to log into my account and check my email. All right, so now I've gone ahead and logged into that particular account and I've accepted the invite. So now if I go ahead and refresh this, you'll see that the status will not be open anymore. It is status is accepted. So now that you have done this, let's go back to the accounts. You'll see both the accounts coming up here. So one of the account is basically Arun TAC and the other one is Arun's experiment. So these are the two accounts that I have, and you'll see the email IDs and the account IDs here. I've grayed that out because those are my personal information. I don't want to share that. So that is what you have here. Now if you click on organize accounts, you will see that you have the accounts here. If you created an organizational unit, you will have that here, and then you will see kind of a tree diagram also if you click on the tree view. So we can see all those things if you have it here, right here. Now the next part of it is basically, if you go to the policies, you will see that you can have SCPs, which are basically the policies that we are talking about. So you can have policies set to these AWS accounts. You can have policies set to the organizational units that you create. So this is what you can do from the SCPs. And you can also have tag policies where you have tagged particular things and those tags can be given particular policies. Both are disabled. We are not going to use those at this point of time. So now that we have gone and done this, let's get into the next part of it. Now what we are going to do in this part is basically going into IAM. We'll have a different, completely different session or track for IAM where you will have a better understanding about this. But let's go ahead and go to IAM at this point of time. I'm going to click on IAM. This is the master account that we want to use here. You'll see this is the Arun tag that I'm going to use here. So you'll see that there are users, groups, roles, etc. that you can find here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a role here. Right. So I'm going to create a role here. And I'm going to use this role for another AWS account. Now we'll see how it is used for EC2, I mean, particular services. You have these federated this thing and all this thing we're going to see in detail in the IAM track. I'm just simply going to click a role for this another AWS account. Now the account ID is what you will find on that particular, if you go to that other account, you will find the account ID there. So I'm going to switch over to the other tab where in which I have opened my the other account, that is the new account that I've added into the organization. So I'm going to go to that particular this thing. I'm going to click here and click on my account. Again, now this will be grayed out for you, but there will be I'm going to point to where you can find your account ID. So once this is loading up, right, so this right here is the account ID right at the top. So I'm going to select that and I'm going to go back to my console here. I'm going to put this here. So this is the account ID I have put up. Basically required external ID, best practice when third party will assume this role, require MFA. I'm not going to have enhanced options here. I'm going to simply click on next. Now I'm going to attach a particular policy to it. So what I'm going to give this particular account access is to S3 access. So I'm going to give it an S3 access. I'm going to create a S3 access here. So I'm going to give this full S3 access. And let me add some tags to this. I'm going to click next. So I'm going to say, give it a name here. I can give it, I can just skip this as well, but I'm going to give it an access. So I'm going to name it as cross account S3. I'm going to keep a copy of this so that I can put this as the name. So the role name is also, I'm going to set it as cross account S3, and I can put this as the description as well if it is not required, but I'm going to just put it. So I mean, again, this will be grayed out for you, but there is the account number, it will come up here. I'm going to create a role for this. So now if you click on the cross account this thing, you'll find that this is the particular. So what you need to do is basically copy this link and keep. So I would copy this and keep it in my notepad. I'm going to open my notepad for this. I'm going to simply copy this and keep it in my notepad. So what I'm going to do with this is basically go into that other account and use this when I'm creating basically an access for this particular role on this particular AWS account. So what we are going to simply do here is go into that other account. So let me do that. So here I'm on the other account now. So what I'm going to do here is basically close this first, and here I'm going to create a user first. So let me go ahead back to the IAM part again. So don't worry about this. The IAM part will be covered up in the coming sessions under IAM track. So don't worry about it. I'm going to go ahead and create a user here. So I'm going to create a user here. So I'm going to name this as Arun. I'm going to give it right now I'm going to give it the console access. I don't want the programmatic access to this, so I'm going to give this a custom password. I'm going to give it the password, and I don't need to change the password at this point of time. So this will be set. I mean, basically you can ask it to give it a must change for password when they log in for the first time. I'm not going to set all that. I'm going to click on the next permissions. I'm going to create a group in which I'm going to put this user. So I'm going to give the name for this group as admin. I'm going to create this group, and I'm going to give this complete administrator access. That is the function, job function of this particular group. I'm going to create the group, and I'm going to create a tag. Now I'm going to name this again, admin group, admin users. So I'm going to add this as well. And so you see whatever you have selected, you will see it here. I'm going to create this user. Right, so I have this user here. Now I can actually send this to the user as well if I want to. If I can go ahead and do that, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to sign out of this, and I'm going to copy this particular this is where this is what the user will have to use when they want to use their particular account. So right, so I'm in this particular, I'm going to when I have pasted that particular URL in the address bar. Now I can simply click on enter. This is the IAM username that I have used. Arun is the IAM user, and this is the password. I'm going to click on enter. I've already entered both of them, so now I am inside that particular account. So I don't want it to remember my password. Now you'll see that it would be Arun under at the rate that particular account. So this is the account that I can see. Now what I can simply do here, I can just click on this. I can go ahead and switch role. So if you click on switch role, it will take you to you can click on switch role again, and then you will have to enter these details. So instead of entering all these details, we have just copied that particular thing that on our notepad. I'm going to switch over to that notepad here. I'm going to copy that URL. I'm going to paste this in the browser. So yes, so you will see that it is the cross account S3. It has automatically populated all the fields that we require. We're going to click on switch role now. So now you will be taken into the new, this is basically the console. So now what we did is basically now we have given a role to this particular account. So any user in that particular account who can switch role, they can access this. But let's see what kind of access this particular user has, because if you remember, we had given the access only to the S3 bucket. So will I be able to see IAM roles? Let's go ahead and check that. You click on, you will see that no, I cannot access anything. So this is the other account that I have created, and you'll see that I am unable to actually access anything on the IAM side. Similarly, if you click on the EC2 part, again the same thing. You will be taken into the console. Now if there are running instances, you will not be able to see the running instances. It will take some time to load, and it will tell you that you don't have the permissions to see this. So you're not authorized to see this. You will not be able to see it. Now, if you remember, in the main account that we are using, we have put some files on so we have actually hosted our S3 website, right? So you should be able to see that under S3, right? So let's click on S3 and check if we can find that. And indeed, you can actually see that techmozart.in bucket here. So to cross-check this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply create another bucket here. So I'm going to name this as cross account test. So what this is going to do is basically I'm going to create a cross account test, and I'm going to check if this after logging off from this particular account and logging back in my main account, that is the master account, do I see this in the basically the S3 console. So let's go ahead and do this. So I'm going to just create this. I'm going to create this bucket. And I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going to put in any files into that bucket. I don't want to do that. So let's go ahead and log off from this particular account now. So you see that there is a role history wherein I have used the cross account. I'm going to sign out from here, and I'm going to log in now to the other account. Let me go ahead and do that. So you now taking back to that other account only. I don't have a user there. I'm going to simply switch over. I'm going to use the root user for that other account. I'm going to log in with my other account. I'm logging in now. Right, so I'm in my Arun tag is my this thing. So just so you know that this is indeed the original one, I'm going to organizations to see which is my main master account. So I'm going here, and I see that this is the master account. Arun tag is the master account. This is the master account. So I'm going into S3 now to see if that particular bucket that we created shows up here. So yes, it is showing up here. So you see that the cross account test is also available here. So this is how you can actually give this access, give the access to an S3 bucket across the account. So this is how you can do that. So that's all we are covering in this part. Now let's move on to the last part, in which we'll be discussing about the transfer acceleration. So let's go ahead and get into that. All right, before going into transfer acceleration, actually we did miss one more thing. So we are going to do a cross-region replication now. So for this particular module, what we're going to do is basically first we'll have, if there is another bucket that we have set up in another region, both these buckets need to have version enabled. Here we don't have another bucket in another location in the demo that we're gonna see, but if indeed you have another bucket, you need to have versioning enabled on that bucket as well. So that's one of the prerequisites that you'll be looking at. The second part is basically we'll be creating a cross-region replicated bucket, and we'll see what happens when you're creating a bucket and there are some items in some objects basically inside that bucket already. What will happen to those files, and what will happen to the files that we're going to put in that afterwards. So let's see what will happen there. And yeah, so that's exactly what is mentioned in the last part. So let's go ahead and check this out. Let's get right into it. Right, so I am right here in the console, S3 console now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going into the Tech Mozart, the same bucket that we use for hosting. I'm going to use this same bucket, and I'm going to do a cross-region replication. Let's see if we can do that. So let's click into that, let it load up. Now once it's loaded up, let me go to the properties. So you see all these here. I'm not going to do transfer acceleration, so I have to go to the management part where you need to replicate. So click on replication here. Now let's add a rule here. Right, so first and foremost thing is that obviously it will tell you that there is no versioning enabled here. I'm going to click on enable versioning. So I'm going to basically do that entire bucket. So there is I have actually enabled versioning. Now before going into this, let me cancel this first and show you something interesting here. So if you go to properties, and if you go to versioning, you'll see that you cannot stop versioning. You can only suspend it. So there is a difference. Suspending it and completely stopping it. So the versions will still be there. You can just go ahead and suspend it so that the new there are no versions created for the newer file that you upload, but you cannot stop versioning at all. You can only suspend it for some time. So that is something that you need to know. Just wanted to reiterate on that point. So let's go into management, back to management, and go for replication. Now if you go ahead and add a rule, now see, you don't get that message because now versioning is enabled on this particular bucket. So let's go ahead. I'm going to do it for the entire bucket. I can go ahead and do a replicate objects encrypted with AWS KMS. So if there are only encrypted stuff, then you can mention that here. I'm not going to select that. I'm going to click on next here. And now if you want to change the storage class, once you have replicated it, you can do that as well. You can actually give it the ownership also. So you're going to do a cross-region replication, as well as you're going to change the ownership to say another owner for this bucket. You can do that. The replication time control is again one more thing that you can basically, it's a 99.9% replication that you need to do. I'm not going to select all these things. I am not bothered about it. So this I'm going to, now if you see here, there is only one more bucket that I've created within this account. So I only see that here. So I'm going to create a new bucket in this case because we don't have another region where a bucket is already created. I'm going to give this another unique name. I'm going to give this, since this is for Tech Mozart, I'm going to give it as www.techmozart.us. Instead of in, I'm going to do that. I'm going to go and select the US region that I'm looking at. I'm going to North Virginia. I'm going to set it as North Virginia. I'm going to click on next now. So I've created a bucket there. So we'll go to that bucket and check out what will happen after this. So I can actually set an IAM role here. I can do that. So let me see if I can attach an IAM role here. So I don't have, okay, so let me select this. All right. Okay, so yeah, I have not created a role, so my bad. So I'm going to set this role as cross region replication S3. I've named this and I'm going to click next. Okay, okay, it's enabled. Let me go ahead and click this next. So what this is basically doing, it's basically creating a role in which there is going to be it is going to allow for the replication. So I've created a new role because there is no role already assigned to this. or I've not created another role, you can actually create a role and just attach it to this one. So I'm going to simply save this. So you see that it is automatically created an S3 CRR role for TechMozart. So it has already created that on its own. So which means basically this role basically means it's S3 cross region role, which is attached from techmozart.in to techmozart.us. So that has been created now. We have done the replication. So you'll see that what has been done here is their application is here. So we are done with this. So let's go back on the overview. Now let's see what has happened. Now do we have all the files that are here in this particular S3 bucket onto that other region bucket? Let's go ahead and check that. So I'm going to duplicate this tab now. I've duplicated this. I'm going to change this. Yeah, so I don't have to change this. Basically I can click on Amazon S3. So now if you see, now here the regions, you are seeing the regions over here, right? So this is the US East one region, techmozart.us. I'm going to click on that to see what the contents there. So and weirdly there are no files here. So this is something that you need to know when you're going for a cross region replication. Whenever you have some files and then you're gonna later on you're gonna enable a cross region replication, they are not going to show up there. But now if I'm going to that main particular bucket, this is my bucket, I'm going to upload some new files here. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to click let's go say I'm going to upload the static website policy here, and I'm going to click on upload here. So what will happen now? This particular file should be replicated onto that other bucket. So let's go ahead and check if that did happen. It will take some time for it to get replicated. So you see that this file has come up here now, and I've refreshed it and it is there in the techmozart.us, and this one there are these files here as well. Now if I go ahead and update these files, so let me go ahead and see if I can update this. Let me upload the same thing. Right, so I uploaded it. Now you'll see that there will be two versions of this file, and rightly so. Index has two files. Now this new update, it will show up as the file over here. Let's go ahead and see if that is correct. So yeah, so if you see here, this is the file that we were talking about. So it has been replicated across the region. So this is what we are doing now. Now let's go ahead and do one more thing. So now let's see, now this is updated. Now let me hide this. I'm going to simply click on this particular, I don't want this file. I'm going to delete this file from here. I have clicked on delete. I'm going to delete this. Okay, so what do you think will happen right now? So basically what cross replication does is it does not delete a file. The newer files that you're putting in, it does take into account, but it does not delete the file. So let's go ahead and refresh this. Does it replicate that? No, it does not. So you will still have this file. So this is kind of a backup that you're creating. So this is a cross region replication, wherein which whenever you delete a file from the location, so basically the first region where you have the file, when you're going to delete a file, it does not replicate that deletion onto the replicated part. So even if I keep clicking on refresh, this is not going to go. So this file is going to remain there. So that is what we have done right now. So as some things that you need to remember are these, that basically any files they were already present in the bucket before activating the cross region replication will not be replicated to the newer bucket. So the other bucket, the other region bucket. only files that you put after the replication, that will be replicated to that new location, new region. Also, when you delete a particular file that is there in the bucket, it is not going to get replicated to the cross region S3 bucket. So that is something that you have to take into account. So that is all. That's all that we need to know about the cross region replication. I'm going to go ahead and delete that other one because obviously you will be getting charged for all of these things. So make sure that you are putting that into account. So let's get into the next part before let's get into the transfer acceleration now. All right, so we are into the last part of the S3 labs. So this is the transfer acceleration and CloudFront overview. Now, transfer acceleration is basically using, it basically makes use of the CloudFront for people to actually upload with higher speeds. So we're gonna see how we can actually update that on an S3 bucket, and also we're gonna see how we can use CloudFront and how we can use CloudFront basically. So let's go ahead and get into that. So first thing that we're going to do here is see what is the difference in the speeds with transfer acceleration. So we'll see that first. There is basically when you search for it, you'll get it. We'll see that what is the differences when you're using transfer acceleration. The second part of it is we're going to create an S3 bucket to be used as an origin for a CloudFront distribution. So that is what we're going to see. And lastly, we're going to see a web distribution. We're going to create a CloudFront distribution, which is a web distribution in this case. We will see what other options we have in CloudFront distribution as well. So let's jump into the console and start working. Right. So I'm in the AWS S3 console right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the same bucket that we were using till now. So I'm going to click on that particular bucket. Now I'm going to show how you can actually enable the transfer acceleration. So go into properties. Now, if you scroll down, you'll see that transfer acceleration is right here. If you click on this particular one, not there. Right, so when you clicked on it, actually it took it into the knowledge base where you can see what it does. So basically, what is transfer acceleration? It will create an endpoint wherein which it is using the CloudFront distributions across the world, and what it does basically is that all the users. So if I'm uploading, so this particular bucket that I've created, this is in Mumbai region, right? So if somebody wants to upload a file and a person is in, say, North Virginia, and you don't have a replication or anything set there, and you have multiple places, like not only North Virginia, but if you want to have a user in Australia, you want to have a user in Ireland. So what you need to do is basically just enable this so that they will have much better upload speeds here, and using this they will be able to upload much quicker onto the bucket that you have created. So this is what we use transfer acceleration for. This is making use of the CloudFront distributions and the backend. So now if you want to compare the data speed transfers by region, just click on this link. It will take you into a particular page wherein which this will actually populate how quickly it was going to upload to each region. Now with the transfer acceleration and without the transfer acceleration. So let's wait for this to come up. Right, so I'm going to pause while this populates itself and then come back after all of it is populated. Right, so that did take some time to actually load up. So now you'll see that obviously Mumbai region, the direct upload is going to be quicker than the accelerated transfer upload speed. So now if you see as a general thumb rule, the farther away from the particular region you go, the transfer upload speeds will increase. So you will see that all these places like San Francisco, it's 17% faster, 13% faster in Oregon. If you go to Seoul, it is 25% faster. Yeah, Singapore is actually 9% slower on transfer upload speed. And if you go forward, Sao Paulo is 45% faster, and for some reason, Ohio is 19% slower rather than faster. London is 35% faster on the accelerated transfer upload speeds. So now you can actually go ahead and check this chart before you actually. This is actually according to where my bucket is hosted. So if you see here, this is based on the location of this particular bucket. So if you're going to use this, you have to be careful on if you have something like in Ohio or in Singapore, you obviously do not have to activate that. But if you are indeed actually looking for something like say London, Canada, or Sao Paulo, or Sydney for that matter, so then you should go ahead and select the transfer upload speeds which are much higher there with the transfer acceleration turned on. So that is what we need to check before we go ahead and select transfer acceleration. Now let's see how a CloudFront distribution can be created. So I'm going to close this now. We don't need that anymore. So now we are not going to select this because this is going to be a chargeable thing. We are not going to select that. But what we're going to do is now going and creating a CloudFront distribution. So for CloudFront distribution, you can actually, I pinned it up here, but you will find this under the network and content delivery. So I'm going to click on CloudFront here under the network and content delivery. Now there is no CloudFront distribution that has been created yet, so I'm going to click on create. Now there are two types of CloudFront delivery. I mean, basically it can be delivered on web or the RTMP. Now if you read right here, they're gonna discontinue this RTMP distribution soon, so yeah, you need not even bother knowing what it is. But it is I mean, if you still want to know about it, it is basically an Adobe Flash Media Server RTMP protocol that you can go ahead and use this for. But like I said, after December 31st, 2020, this will no longer be applicable for this particular thing. So let's go ahead and get started with the web distribution. Now what I'm going to do is I have clicked on creating a web distribution. Now the origin. Now what I'm going to do is I have 3 buckets that I've created. Now I'm going to give one of them as the origin of this particular cloud distribution. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this techmozart.in as the origin part, and I can actually give it the path. So I can give it as /index.html, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave it as is. The origin ID is s3 www.techmozart.in. I can actually go ahead and restrict bucket access here. I can do a lot of stuff here, but this is just a demo to show you how you can create a CloudFront distribution. So like I mentioned, now like for transfer acceleration, how the speeds are increased for the upload, you can actually use this as a case in which you have this CloudFront distribution, and if you are going down here, now you'll see as you go lower, you will have a distribution option. Now distribution settings, use all edge locations. You can actually select all locations. You can go ahead and select the regions that you want, but I would rather prefer using all edge locations. So that what this is doing is basically the edge location is like regions and availability zones. These are locations where our data centers, they will cache this particular. So if you have a particular website, for example, now I have hosted a website on S3. So if you want a CloudFront distribution to actually cache it, so how this works is that, say I am sitting here in Mumbai, and I have created this CloudFront distribution. So whenever somebody is accessing, so this is coming before it directly hits my S3 bucket. So what happens is that when this particular user is trying to use this, there is a server or server at their location where it gets cached. So this file, the first person who will try and access this particular the site, he will get a slower speed. But from then onwards, anybody who is going to access this will get this cached file. So that is how it works, and that's why it gets faster after the first use. So I'm going to set it as all. I'm not going to select anything else. You can go through this in detail. Now the time. So like I said, there's a cache that has been stored. So now the cache time to live, or TTL, is basically the time that you set for the time that the cache can survive there. So after that maximum TTL is over, it will actually get deleted. So you can actually go ahead and force to clear this out as well. But I'm not going to go in detail about that. This is all you need to know. I'm going to go ahead and create this distribution. Now this will take some time to actually come up. So let's wait for it to come up. Let me pause and pause the recording and get back to when it is completely ready. All right, so we are back now, and now you can see the status has changed from in progress to actually deployed. Now let's go right into it. I'm clicking on that. I'm inside. All you need to do now is basically copy this domain name. I'm going to copy this domain name, and I'm going to paste this in the browser, and let's see what comes up. Obviously not work. This should actually, you should give it, because we did not mention any file inside that. I'm going to give it the file name for that to work. So I'm going to put it in here. Now it works. So this is how you're going to use this particular CloudFront distribution. And if you see that anybody using this at any, so this particular URL, if you're sharing with anybody, it will give you higher speeds as you move away from this particular region where this is hosted. So this is how you can create a CloudFront distribution and use this. So yeah, this is that's about it that we needed to cover under S3. Obviously CloudFront distribution is separate, but we've covered that as well. We will be using this later on as well. So that's it from my side on the S3 labs. We'll catch up in the coming session with IAM and VPC as we go forward. So thank you for being part of this lecture. We'll see you in the next track. Thank you.